Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Anusha and I'll be your host for today. Welcome to Mike's webinar series, Road to Recovery, Episode 8 Business Value and Opportunities for the IoT Infrastructure Development. With us today, we have our moderator, Technologies, Zulkifli Mohammed, Senior Principal Analyst 1 at Sustainable Development Technologies with Division MITE. He has more than 28 years of working experience in the field of manufacturing, in automotive and electronics industry, as well transportation. Also joining us today, our distinguished panelists, Dr. Mazlan Abbas, co-founder and CEO of Favorite Syndrome Berhad, Dr. Muhammad Fahmi Ngah, Managing Director of Smart Selangor Delivery Unit, Norman L. Gilfdorf, President of Honeywell ASEAN. And our final panelist is Dato' Muhammad Rauf Nasir, Country President of Motorola Solutions. Now, with pleasure, I would like to invite Technologist Zulkifli Mohammed to begin our discussion today. Mr. Zul?
Okay, thank you, Anusha. A very good afternoon to all our audience and also our panelists. I believe since Anusha has introduced the panelists, generally I would like to start the session by giving a brief overview or introduction on this topic. As you know, today we are going to discuss on the business value and opportunities for IoT infrastructure development. Okay, so what is IoT? Generally, as you know, that in advancement in information and communication technology are the drivers of smart city scope and scale. The rapid progression is transforming smart city infrastructure with the emergence of IoT. The fields of electronics and computer science have combined to create one important technology advance, that is the Internet of Things. It is the capability to overcome the stress in urbanization, create new experience for city dwellers, and also to make communities' daily living more comfortable and secure in one way or the other. As for your information, in one of our foresight analysis on the trend of the future, the digital society and IoT, Malaysia was ranked number 31st in 2018 in the world most tech-ready countries with approximately 150% mobile phone penetration. You know, that means more than every person in Malaysia use more than one handphone. Okay. Of course, in the era of hyper-connectedness is onto us, connecting not only people, but also process and things. The IoT connected device installed base worldwide from 2015 to 2025 in billions, and the data that we collected from KPMG, that is by 2025, the connectedness will increase by almost threefold, which is from 15 billions in 2015 to about 75.14 billion. It's actually fivefold. So you can see there is a great demand in IoT device in the future. Okay, and IoT has seen as an exponential growth owing to the readiness of the ecosystem of various other technologies, resulting in the building use case that impact human life, and connectivity is the foundational lever of the IoT. If we look into the smart cities development, smart cities have been one of the strongest enablers, okay, for this IoT, and the cities today never cater to dynamic demands of citizens. And many cities are competing to provide improved living conditions and environmental sustenance and economic vitality. And then from the survey of 350 projects worldwide, and this data also from KPMG, the global share of IoT projects shows that smart city projects in IoT segment has the biggest project value and has increased from the year 2018 by 23%. In America, the share is about 34% of IoT projects in smart cities, and in Europe also about 34%. And in Asia Pacific, we are only about 18%, and it's keep on growing. Okay, we need to identify the smart cities, what the needs of the smart cities, authority and industry players in the IoT ecosystem, and how does this can capture our business value. This webinar will open a better understanding of the IoT business value, opportunities, and landscape through the different ways that can be created and captured in IoT infrastructure development. Okay, generally that is how we see IoT and how does it impacts and the increasing demand of IoT globally and also in the region. So to begin with, I would like to invite our panelists to give a short brief upon the topic. We shall begin with Dr. Mazlan. Okay, Doc. IoT is defined differently by various entities which lead to a real difficulty of understanding the meaning of IoT. Additionally, it's not easy to get a big picture of IoT because different industries and business tend to add their own perspective to the IoT concept depending on their interests, and approaches. In your experience, Dr. Mazlan, can you share the overall context of IoT infrastructure in the context of infrastructure development? Doc, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Zul. Thank you very much to Mike for inviting us. I think one of the things I have slightly different view what Mr. Zul mentioned just now about which is the enabler, because you did mention earlier that smart city is the enabler for IoT. I would say it's a slightly different way because IoT itself is the enabler for smart cities. So what we are seeing now is that if you look at in the context of smart city, for example, when we see the people are moving to the urban areas in the future, it will cause, like you said, big strain to the urban resources, right? So we have difficulty to live comfortably and economically. So people are moving to urban to find jobs, causing this big dense population, congestion, and pollution. So with that, you see that the assets. So you take a look at smart city context. What are the assets? So the assets can be the whole infrastructure, the services, the things that we use as a citizen and also the stakeholders. So these assets, if we see that once it's being strained, there is a problem with the asset. So you need a way to monitor that. Normally, when people want to monitor assets, they need to be physically at the assets. So, but in IoT, it's slightly different. So IoT comprises of 4 components. So this is how we define Internet of Things in various sectors. Either it can be in the smart city area or not. It must have sensors which replace all the human sensors into digital form. So human have 5 sensors. So we need different sensors, which is in digital form, like temperature, humidity, pressure, gas, and so on and so forth. So the second component, you need a way to send the data out. It must have some form of connectivity. So you can use whatever current connectivity now from Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, 3G, 4G, 5G, and all that. And then you must have a platform, a way for you to collect all the data. So you need the sensors to send the data onto a single platform so that you can open up this data for the 4th component, which is the application. So in the context of smart city, you will see that the assets of the smart city of the cities needs to be monitored through sensors. So instead of having human to monitor assets, you need sensors to be monitored. Either the assets to be attached to that, the sensors to be attached with that assets, or you can put some infrastructure to monitor it. For example, the traffic light, so the congestion, the water quality and all that. So you need sensors to do that. So you need infrastructure to send the data out. You need a platform, a smart city IoT platform to collect the data, and then you have an applications to monitor it, to manage the solution. So that is what smart city is about. 4 components.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mazlan, for the short introduction. Generally, you are stressing more on the asset or on how we're going to monitor our asset. Oh yes, of course, you need the medium that is the sensors, and then connectivity. Without connectivity, you don't talk about any IoT or so forth. Of course, the platform is very important to have a common platform and the platform that we rely on. Now we'll go to Datuk Rauf from Motorola. Okay, the deployment of IoT infrastructure seems to face several obstacles, such as a lack of employee management, IoT skill and knowledge, security and safety measures, and also big data management. Here, as a Motorola locally based but international, as an MNC in Malaysia, can you explain on the strategies by Motorola on how to overcome such obstacles and challenges to implement the IoT infrastructure development in terms of skills and knowledge by the local and also by the national? Okay. So we just need some view from the Motorola side. After you, Dr. Rauf.
Okay, thank you very much, Encik Zul. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
3 to 4 minutes, yeah.
All right. So just let me quickly give an introduction about Motorola Solution Malaysia before I answer your questions. So Motorola Solution Malaysia has been in Malaysia for 45 years, and Malaysia has been a very strategic country for Motorola Solution. Today, we have a global operation here in Malaysia, and business is also quite key and important to Motorola as far as Malaysia is concerned. I'm very proud to say that our largest R&D outside of North America are based here in Malaysia, and we do a lot of R&D development. And 98% of the R&D, we have about 1,000 R&D engineers, and 98% of them are all Malaysian. In terms of our business, Malaysia is also very important. One of our key customers in this region are also here in Malaysia. So that is Motorola Solution Malaysia. As far as the Motorola Solutions, our corporate organization, we are a global leader in mission critical communication and analytics. We have created mission critical ecosystem built based on public safety by leveraging the IoT infrastructure. So our technology and platform in mission critical communication, command center software, video security and analytics are wrapped together by our support services and managed services that will help the city to continue to grow and make it the city safer. So that is basically what Motorola core business is. Now, I mentioned earlier about our R&D facility in Penang, right? So we do a lot of these development in software development, next generation communication, and IoT is definitely one of them. So the advanced R&D that we are doing in our facility in Penang, which 1,000 plus R&D engineers, where 98% of them are local, this is where we are in a unique position to contribute to the challenges that we are facing in this area. So we can leverage on the facility that we have in Penang, the skill, the knowledge, and the experience that we have, and with the project that we have together with our customers. So this is where we can actually help to grow the ecosystem of skill and knowledge in this particular area.
Dato', just I'm interested, very interesting your mission critical communication. So can you a bit deliberate what is mission critical communication? Is it related to security or the army or police?
Thank you for asking that. Mission critical. So our mission critical communication system is dealing as a matter of life and death. Right. So we, for example, we provide a mission critical communication solution to police. Right. So police in a critical situation where they're chasing the criminals, whether or not they should shoot or whether or not they should basically catch the criminal. So so we provide that, and that is the term that we use, mission critical communication. Whenever that is required, it's readily available to communicate. When you need to talk, you just press and you have immediate, on the other side, be able to. So that's what I mean by critical communications.
Okay. Thank you, Dato', for your brief explanation about the Motorola and also what do they do and what mission critical communication mean. Very interesting. Now we move to Mr. Norm Gilsdorf from Honeywell. Mr. Norm, as you know, IoT infrastructure is a network platform with advanced capacity for humans to communicate with the surrounding physical environments, and also they are performing various tasks. The main concerns regarding IoT were about the outlook of the business value is unclear for any entities to participate and position itself in the market to be competitive in IoT business, because it's very wide, the field is very wide. What are the angle that you're going to approach? So as for Honeywell per se, can you share with us, Honeywell, in general, what is your business model in delivering IoT infrastructure development? Because you being in the region, so probably there are different approach by different countries. Can you share with us a bit, Mr. Norm?
Certainly. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this great panel. First of all, let me give just a brief overview of what Honeywell does in this space of IoT, and then let me get to your specific question. Sure. Well, I think many of you know Honeywell's one of the world's leading broad-based industrial companies. We're over 100-year history of making great products, sensors, and controls. We've had a long history in Malaysia, where KL is our headquarters for ASEAN and most of Asia Pacific. All of our business units operate out of KL, and we have many manufacturing facilities, R&D, and engineering in the country. Over the last few years, Honeywell's pivoted from being kind of a broad-based industrial company making products and devices to becoming a leading, what we call, software industrial company. And what makes Honeywell unique with respect to smart cities and IoT is that Honeywell's a leader in designing and manufacturing the sensors and the controllers, the edge devices, the software for connectivity to just about any digital device that's out there, the cloud software for the platform, and the artificial intelligence solutions to drive the value benefits of safety, productivity, and sustainability that you can derive from smart city. Remember, we want the city or the customer needs value from this. Honeywell's recently introduced what we call Honeywell Forge, which is a platform that enables customers to gather data from multiple sources in a vendor-agnostic platform. This platform enables the data to be cleaned up, organized, most importantly, visualized, where you can have KPIs and dashboards. It enables command and control rooms to basically oversee and manage performance. But once this data is there, now you can apply artificial intelligence to enable those smart solutions to drive that profitability, security, and sustainability. Lastly, the Forge platform is open so that local companies and local apps can be created and linked to drive local specific solutions. And around the world today, we've been delivering this solution to clients in multiple ways. Let me talk then a little bit about that. We have a very open approach to this. It depends a lot on the customer and the end user. Sometimes we've worked as what you call a master system integrator, where we're helping put together and connect the dots of the sensors, the connectivity, the platform, the visibility, the command and control center. Good example of that is our work in Cairo today on the new capital to create for them a command and control center. We also can just provide technology, sensors, edge devices to local integrators and local companies to enable them to implement solutions. Or we can provide software. A good example of this is in Dubai, where we provided a software that enabled all the fire and emergency systems to gather the data and be brought into a center to enable faster response. We also partner with local telecoms to create bespoke solutions to enable wireless monitoring solutions such as smart metering and billing solutions. We're also a leading provider of energy performance, which is a way of leveraging IoT, where again, we look at local finance methods to self-finance the investment in IoT. And we've also acted as consultant to governments and entities to define standards and enable policies. And lastly, across many of the regions, we try to help build the conversation around IoT with the introduction of our Healthy Building Scorecard, which is a way for end users of buildings to actually assess whether their building is really smart and healthy. So that's just some of the many ways. I think IoT is an exciting area where we can do a lot of different things, working with a lot of different local partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Oh, that's a very wide scope and the area that you're covering from technology, platform, integrators, software, providers, financing, guidance, and consultation. Wow, that is a very, I can say, a very wide scope. And we can see here that Motorola is in the angle of providing the solutions. And also we have also, but the question, a quick question now to Norm first. Generally, Norm, since you are already online with me, generally, but how do you partner with the locals, generally, especially SMIs, small medium industries? Do you have such a program? And how does you can create business opportunities for the local players? Because being global, of course, some countries they want the local to participate also in the opportunities for IoT products. So
absolutely right. And a big part of our model is to be partnering with the local entities, because to actually implement this stuff, to go out and whether it be installing sensors, building command and control centers, bringing together the connectivity, that's work that it's best done by the local partners and SMEs. And what we do there is we have a broad network. Some are skilled in some parts of the business, specifically whether it be around security or fire or safety or buildings. We can provide them the technology, the software. And I guess I would add one important thing going forward is providing the training and helping train them so they understand how to use the technology and how to implement it. So we often put training academies in the regions to help our partners and to help the locals understand the technology. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Back to you, Dr. Mazlan. And I think being a small players, okay, and I would like you to share, I think, what are the issues and challenges, doing business, value either for government or for GLC, what are the issues and the challenges for this especially in the area of IoT infrastructure development? Dr. Mazlan, can you share your issues and challenges?
Okay, we see a lot of challenges, especially for people or startups or small organizations who wants to embark on this bigger implementation or deployment of smart cities. Because as you see, smart cities is such a huge theme and also huge area of work, because it can cover many things. As I mentioned to you just now, in smart cities alone, the assets are humongous. So there is a need for us to, for example, manage the traffic flows. And these are some of the applications that you can see. How do you manage the traffic flows? How do you make sure that you can even provide mobility as a service? How do you provide a service for disaster management? How can we decrease pollution, increase air quality, reduce energy consumption, making sure that our water quality, like what happened previously, there's lack of water and all that. So all of this, creates a lot of opportunities. But also the investment for this sort of thing can be also very high for a lot of smaller companies to offer this kind of services. So they need a bigger partner for them to work with. For example, like Motorola, from Norm and all that. They need a partner to do that. Or we can work with another party who can, because in IoT solution, in IoT providing IoT solution, it's not a single company can provide that. It is, like I mentioned to you just now, there are 4 value chain, right? From sensors, connectivity, platform and all that. So you need special expertise for that. So smaller companies are expert in certain areas. So they can provide certain part of it. like myself, in Favorite, we are the platform player. So we are the middleware. So we can provide a platform for smart cities so they can enable or they can send the data connectivity to the platform so they can create applications out of that. So that's how we work with. So we need to work together in a very conducive ecosystem so that when we make a proposal to the city councils, it is a very complete proposal rather than one single proposal, because city requires end-to-end solutions.
Partnership model is very important, and I believe also that as per what Dr. Mazlan mentioned, you cannot do everything on your own. So back to you, Dr. Raouf. Okay, in terms of this business model, of course, there are two things that I want to Dr. Raouf from Motorola to share with us. Actually, one is at the MNC level, what are the issues, and challenges that you are facing on accelerating the business value for IoT, and then what is the right business model, for you to help the SMEs, and to provide opportunities. Because sometimes SMEs got capital limitation and they cannot do everything. So from Motorola angle, what is the right business model and what are the issues and challenges? After you, Dr. Raouf.
Thank you, Jazo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can very clearly.
All right, thank you. So I have the opportunity to look at the Malaysia Smart City Framework, right? And I think the framework have outlined 7 components and characteristics in the, when you call smart city, what are the characteristics and what are the components from the Malaysia Smart City framework itself. So they are talking about 7. One is smart economy, smart living, smart environment, smart people, smart government, smart mobility, and smart digital infrastructure. And they are all interconnected with each other. For example, right, in the smart economy, how do we attract the investor to come into your city or into this country? You need to have a good safety and security of the system. That is fall under the smart living, right? And and a smart environment, for example. Now, if I look at all the 7 components and characteristics of the smart city, I think this is all 7 are the area where Motorola can add value into the characteristic. For example, I'm just giving an example. Smart living, right? One of key component in smart living is urban safety and security, which is Motorola is a major player in that. Smart environment, they're talking about disaster resilient city. So you need to have a good infrastructure, a good core back-end system that can provide and support that kind of requirement. Smart people, empower the community. Smart government, e-government service, smart mobility, for example, like integration, safe and reliable. We are very much in the KBMRT Line 1, Line 2, LRT 3. All the rail-related project is where Motorola is already in. And then they're talking about smart digital infrastructure, which is the area that we are also very much into that. So all the 7 components and characteristics, this is where Motorola can add value into what the government is trying to do. Now, you mentioned about the challenges, right? And if you look at Malaysia, for example, Malaysia, we are a 3-tier government. So we have a federal government in Putrajaya, we have a state government in all the state, and we have a local government in all, I cannot remember how many, 170, 130 local authority, maybe, for government. So the challenges is how is more, or it's not so much on the technology, it is more on the structure and process, right? The initiative of the smart city, who is championing it? Where does the budget come from? Who do we need to approach? So these are the challenges that we are facing, right? In terms of reaching to the this agency, our business model has always been we are working together with a local company, right? So that has always been our business model, and this is where we transfer our knowledge and technology to the local, so that they will undertake the project, and we will support them with the skill, the technology, and the product that we have.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. Actually, one of our speaker panelists, Dr. Fahmi. Okay, Dr. Fahmi. Okay, from the smart city authorities, because Dr. Fahmi is from SSDU, Smart Selangor Delivery Unit. Probably you can share with us, Dr. Fahmi, what do for the smart city authorities, and what are the pertaining business value or opportunities for these industry players, for the SMI and also the big players like Motorola and also Honeywell? Probably you can share with us as a custodian of the smart city.
Okay.
Dr. Fahmi, after you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just ask, can you guys hear me, by the way?
Very clear, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. That's perfect. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I apologize that, I mean, this is not due to IoT that you can't see my picture on the screen. I think this is something else.
Invisible man.
Yes, but let's share with you some of the issues that we face here at the state level. So the Smart Selangor Smart State program essentially is trying to address one of the hurdles, the main hurdles. I think Dr. Rolf mentioned it nicely. In the state itself, we have had the challenge of integrating IoT devices across 12 local councils, 9 district offices, and then how do we weave that data back to the state level? So when we talk about IoT from our perspective, it's means and ways on how we can actually obtain data, real-time data or near real-time data from the ground and from certain smart city verticals on the ground. In doing that, I think the challenges I'd like to split it into 3. I think this is probably the perspective that a lot of vendors, I think, either probably couldn't appreciate or couldn't quite see. The first one, I think the challenge that we have is actually at the device level. Okay. Second is storage, and third is on the analysis side. I'm going to tackle the device issue first. So from the state perspective, we obviously get some grant money to spend to try and build applications or IoT infrastructure for the state. Here we are faced with a bit of a Lazada sort of issue, right? Take, for example, air quality sensor. We need one. I think Dr. Mazlan mentioned about the need to measure air quality. I can even talk about the water situation, which is a recent issue. So when it comes to like devices, I think there's a plethora of vendors.
Hello, Doc. We lost Dr. Mazlan, I think. Anusha?
Just give us one moment, yeah, Dr. Fahmi. He's still there.
He's still there, eh?
Yes, 1 second, yeah. He's still there. Just give us 1 second. Hold on.
Okay.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Okay, he's back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know what's going on. So where did you guys get me at device or?
Device.
Okay, so
device,
yeah. Okay, sorry, apologize. Let me get back to that point.
Device.
So on the device side, we have a plethora of devices that can be used even for one application. So we talk about air quality sensors, right? I think Dr. Mazlan, I'll just share with you the extent of the problem, right? So in the Selangor state, previously when we had that haze situation, there are IoT devices by federal government, Jabatan Alam Sekitar. So they put forth 7 units along the coastline of Selangor to detect pollution coming in from Sumatra. Obviously, that's when the big haze comes in. Now, that only covers 7 locations at the sea line, the shoreline of Selangor. Now, we've got schools going inland, right? And what Selangor State have done, or we done through Selangor State, is to install 100 of these IoT air quality sensors that measures PM 2.5. So in the middle of the haze, when we began to see red readings, readings above 150 according to the JAS units, and we are showing perhaps 200, we can't use our readings to close down schools because they say the only legitimate standard is theirs, right? But the problem here is it was quite real because one of their units actually cost almost 1,000 times more than one of our units.
Wow.
Right? So the state can't just, in so much as we want to give it to the people and make sure people breathe clean air, we just can't afford that amount of money, but these are federal government constructs within the state. So that's on the sort of the air quality part, right? So what we have done instead is to try and do extrapolation. So if the shoreline is showing 150, we're at 200, I think that's pretty linear, and we can see smoke outside, so we can shut our schools that way. So at least we we had met that objective, although it's not the smartest, but we use our sensors in that way. The second issue with the sensors is also, I think, the limitation of technology. The recent water cut, that is caused by the inability to have a sensor that can actually detect smell. So what happened in the state was so we had, you can name it, we had ammonia sensors in the water, in the river, we have pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, everything under the sun except for smell. So let me share with you the difficulty that we, and the struggle that we had was when that happened, the only way for us to backtrace the source of the pollution is to use a team, our internal SEAL team. Okay, like in the Navy, they have the U.S. Navy SEALs, right, where they track the terrorists and all that. In the Selangor state, we have a special team called PAKAR, Pasukan Khas Alur Air. Their job, by the way, is to trace, using this IoT device called NOSE, to track the smell of the bleach to the point of pollution. That was done, and it was done in like within half a day. So we managed to trace that source, and that's the way how it was done. Granted that if we had that sensor, it could be detected quicker, but we don't. But we have to use other means to solve it. So that's the two key things about the devices. So one is the limitation of technology, and I think the second one I mentioned is the issue of acceptability and also internal regulations or legislations within the state, right? or even the whole country. The other two things that we face under devices also will be the issues of the security part of it. I think Honeywell probably have a solution to that. I think so here we're talking about two security. There is the security of the internet, which seems to be solved by everybody, but there's also the issue of the security of the things themselves, right? We have a plan this year in our so Smart Selangor has been given a refresher this year. We've recently got our new blueprint to be approved by the state. There's a more focused program until 2025. In there's an initiative that's going to roll out 1,000 CCTVs and build a state integrated command control center. We're building a new one now. By the end of the year, we should have one. The issue is, how do we prevent hacking into our CCTV systems, right? So that sort of security at the device level is something that will be required. And I think there's a lot in the market, and I think we probably don't have that level of expertise, and we're open to private sectors to come and help us. So that's the issues on the device side. I think on the storage side, again, here's an issue of real-time data coming in. There's an issue of formatting. There's an issue of storage, right? And what do we do? And to what level or what degree and extent should we keep this data? So in the state, we have policies like CCTV feeds will only be stored for up until 45 days, right? Beyond that, we just can't afford it, right? Whether you store it on-prem or whether you store it on the cloud, I think there is an issue there. And I think lastly, which is a problem that we are trying to solve, is the issue of once given that data, what analyses can one do with that? I mean, people talk a lot about value coming from data, right? And a lot of it would come. I think if we get a data scientist to look at the data, there's a lot of value that is to be extracted. In so much so of solving the problem that was intended to solve initially. But I think that skill set is something that we are focusing on to build within the state itself. I mean, our operators, our CCTV operators, have all got to be upgraded to sort of look at this side of that data. So I think those are the three key issues. And I think the thing that we face with vendors, usually we are being given the proposition given to us. Usually it's package. We get the device plus the connectivity plus the storage, and it's all in one price. And maybe from the state perspective, we needed to break that. And I think we need just to buy the components of it, because some parts of that components are being solved. Connectivity, for example. I mean, we've experienced with M2M from local telco operators. I mean, they're not very satisfactory. And I think I can't risk putting IoT on my automatic traffic lights based on these cards, because whenever we have heavy rains, the signal just doesn't seem to get back to the command center, right? So we have to come up with our own solution there, and I think we are building that infrastructure ourselves. But again, here are the challenges, and I think I'm open to discussions with you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Fahmi. Very, what I can say, they talk about the issues on the device, limitation of technology. It's very interesting. Sensor for the smell. Yeah, that is very challenging. I believe that is something that probably that these technology solutions provider can also look into this. Maybe I will get Dr. Fahmi, you hold your horses. We get this Mr. Norm from Honeywell. After listening to those issues, from the authority, Smart Selangor, So, what is your comment, especially on this device issue and also limitation of technology? So, how does we like Honeywell? How do you see in tackling this kind of issues? 2 minutes.
Okay, well, thank you for the question, and thank you for Dr. Fahmi for laying some interesting issues out. I think you described several of them well, and obviously smell is a challenging sensor that we'd all like to solve. I think I'd like to tackle the one point you brought up about this kind of the only way you can do is find a package, and the package may not fit what your need is. And I agree with you that will happen, and that's why one of the focuses we've had is for our software to collect data. For example, we want it to be an open system environment. We want it to be agnostic of who makes the sensor or who makes the controller, so that we can, if necessary, just provide that solution. If somebody needs a sensor, fill that in. So I do think this is really maybe at the core of this. It's about partnership. It's about the local governments and the local SMEs who are able to implement, and the big MNCs to sit down around the table around a problem that needs to be solved, and to put together a pragmatic, workable solution that may have an end-to-end solution, but might often be pieces of a solution put together into a puzzle, or it might be a bespoke solution. And I think it's all about coordinating, sitting across the table, working together jointly, instead of it kind of being the traditional, I want this, here's an RFQ, please deliver it to me. Maybe it should be, here's a problem, what might be, how could you contribute to the solution? Last thing I'd like to just highlight is cybersecurity is important, a big focus of ours, because those end devices have to be protected as well as the system. That's obviously critical. And then, and obviously we got a big focus on that in Malaysia, working with folks there to set standards and policies and then to implement them. And then obviously artificial intelligence is where the value is going to come from. And I agree, you've got to have local skills there, working with global experts together, again, back in a pragmatic partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm, for your comment. I think cybersecurity is something that many people also started to increase the awareness, because the more IoT, also the more you call it wireless or connectivity that we have, there's the much what you call it, the much easier the thing going to be what you call it, hacked and so forth. Cybersecurity, I agree, is one of the area. So in that context, I would like to also like what Dr. Fahmi mentioned, all the issues is also can convert into opportunities, for these like the players, international players, and also the local players lah. Okay. In that context, just before I go to Dr. Mazlan, Dr. Raouf, I think Motorola is also one of the expert in security. So in terms of the security that has been mentioned, the issues by Dr. Fahmi just now, when you how do you see the angle that what are the business opportunity or that can be created from here, and how does you can in the Motorola angle, how you can solve the security issue lah?
All right, thank you, Chazol. I think as I listened to Dr. Fahmi just now, I think I should spend more time with Dr. Fahmi. I can see that there's a lot of opportunities there for us. I think Dr. Fahmi mentioned about the storage challenges, the analysis, the security, the 1,000 CCTVs and all that. So if you look at Motorola, focus, right? I mentioned earlier that we are in the mission critical ecosystem. Very much what Dr. Fahmi mentioned earlier, the area where we are focusing on, for example, like in the command center solution, video security, and analysis. Dr. Mamping mentioned we are also very much into this analysis and in the analytic. So this is the area that we can add value to the challenges and some of the issues faced by some of these smart city organizations. Motorola is very much into the smart city. For example, that our CCTV is been widely used by a lot of the local authority here in Malaysia. So this is the area that we can add value into the some of the challenges and issues faced. Yep. And security, definitely. Motorola, I think, is security. We emphasize a lot on security, cyber security, network security, and all that. So these are the areas that we can add value to the challenges that we face.
Thank you, Dato'. Back to you, Dr. Mazlan. As an SME, after listening to Dr. Fahmi on all the the issues on the device, limitation of technology, security, and also linking to that, the data analytics, the skill sets that is lacking, and so forth. How do you see the business opportunities that from the SME's angle, and how does the local smaller companies can contribute to this? After you, Dr. Mazlan.
Okay. I'm very interested when Dr. Fahmi mentioned about that device and all that. I would say, like smart cities, any smart cities project or any countries have their own DNA. I mean, human have their own DNA. The DNA makes any human, each human different. So the same thing with smart cities. Smart cities have also what we call DNA. The D is the devices. The N is the network. The A is the applications. So in terms of technology-wise, if you look at these three things, they have different maturity levels. So if you look at devices, what Dr. Fahmi mentioned, sometimes the devices is not matured enough. The technology is not there, for nose sensor and all the electronic nose. There are some, but sometimes a lot of times, this kind of implementation gives us the opportunity to create new devices. A lot of implementation, especially in this kind of environment, is not consumer-based, but like enterprise-based, smart city-based. Because of that environment itself, it gives opportunities for people to create new devices. Of course, new devices have also their own challenges because you can't scale up. I mean, you might have very limited numbers. If you have a big numbers, then you can reduce the price down. But because the situation is too unique, sometimes you need to customize that. So in terms of network-wise, we see opportunities where, I think opportunities only for the telco themselves, of course, because but it also allows us to create cheaper solutions. For example, when the telco provide us with alternative technologies, for example, in IoT, they have their own network, the LP1. You have Sigfox, you have NB-IoT, you have LoRa. So these are the new networks, which is very, very cost effective. So previously, it's very difficult for us to provide these kind of solutions. Now it's much cheaper because it's maybe 5 to 10 times cheaper than the previous cellular network. And this can reduce the price. So it allows people like us can provide a better and cost-effective service. The third part is the applications. This is where we can play a big role too. But of course, we need to understand what kind of requirements from the city councils or the smart cities projects what they want. From there, we can create the new IoT solutions. For example, like for us, we give the platform, we open up the platform, this IoT platform for developers to create their own solutions. So they can come in, subscribe to the platform, connect whatever sensors they want on the platform, and use the API to create their own applications. But we also need to understand, we need to get smart cities or whoever responsible for data to make it open. So we need the government to allow data to be shared. So the moment we can share the data, regardless, like you can have a new revenue model if you want to, and then utilize the data for many applications. So this will allow people like us, whoever the new startups, can utilize the applications and create better solutions, many creative solutions with the data that we can have. You can blend the data from many sources of information. That will allow people like us to come on board and help the smart city.
Thank you, Dr. Mazlan. I have a okay. Generally, there's a new term, DNA, good, devices, network, and applications. It's something easy to remember. Yeah, I believe there's a need by the, the service provider, even the SMEs, or also international players, to understand the needs of these, what you call it, these smart city authorities users. Okay. And I think that in terms of identifying the needs, should be many engagements now, which is where I believe also the government is also looking into that, providing platforms, providing opportunities. But now with the current COVID-19 pandemic, all has to go online, which is something a new norm. And there is one question here by the one of the audience saying on the security just now, whether using blockchain technology to store critical data can reduce hacking of the IoT platform and data opportunities. Dr. Mazlan, you want to answer that just for a short 1 minute? Blockchain technology.
No, I do believe blockchain is more than just having Bitcoin. The blockchain is a more technology that can secure data. So it can be utilized in many solutions, many applications, and it can be used even for what he mentioned just now, to store the critical data. So the only thing what we need is to ensure that blockchain is legal and to be used in this kind of manner.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Mr. Norm? What do you think about blockchain? Can it be used as one of the technology to store critical data and to reduce the hacking? Because as highlighted by Dr. Fahmi just now, security is an issue. So how do you see blockchain role in what you call it, in security? Can it help in protecting the critical data?
The answer is yes. I think it's still early days in being developed, but we're certainly looking at it and beginning to use it as a way to store data, protect data, keep data safe. It's got a lot of good applications, but I think it's still early days, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Okay, and that's good. I would like to pose this question back to Dr. Fahmi. Dr. Fahmi. Okay, and how do you see here for the smart city authority and industry players? From your angle as a smart city authority, can help each other to capture the business value and opportunities in IoT, because generally this is what they are looking for. And then maybe from your view, how do authority and industry players can help each other? So after you, Doctor.
Okay, so thank you for that. Good question there. I hear what has been mentioned by Dr. Rauf, Norm, and Dr. Mazlan. What we are finding, like I say, we've got to solve this problem almost from first principles. To use IoT, we think there is an issue that needs to be resolved on the connectivity side itself, because you needed reliable connectivity, and I think that is still an issue. Maybe it's only unique to Selangor, but that's what we're seeing in Selangor itself. And second, there's an issue of the storage and the device side. So I think Dr. Mazlan's model about building that platform is that's one route, or actually there's one opportunity that we are.
Hello, Dr. Fahmi? Anusha?
Right.
Okay, you are back.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We lost you about 20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Okay. 20 seconds.
You repeat the 20 seconds.
I'll get back to my 20 seconds. So basically what I'm saying is the way we can help work together, I think in strengthening this IoT infrastructure development, in under Smart Selangor, we are building an IoT platform, and by that, the main component that we're solving there will be the connectivity side and also the storage side, to ensure that we can capture real-time data. And I think this is probably something Dr. Mazlan is familiar with. A lot of government agencies say that they share open data, but what they chair essentially, or most of the time, will be stuffed in an Excel spreadsheet, right? And he's grinning already. And it's not the sort of data that you require if you want to build the sort of applications that you want to build. You require something real time, and I think we've really experienced this. We have a pilot in Subang Jaya I want to share with you. To try and build a brain that could create adaptive traffic lights. And this means connecting 14 sets, 1-4 traffic lights throughout the one stretch, right? And exactly the problem we're facing is with M2M, local telco connectivity doesn't work. So we have to build our own point-to-point type solutions to make sure we get that real-time data at very, very low latency, so that we get real-time data, so the processors can quickly run the algorithms and tinker with the traffic lights to make sure traffic flow is more optimized. So I think if we manage to crack that, and I think this will be the opportunity for the private sectors to focus their development, like Dr. Mazlan rightly said, on the application side, right? And as well as on the device side. And I think these are the areas that government like us won't get involved in. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to work together there to try and solve that particular problem. There's a whole list of new opportunities within our new blueprint. So I urge you to look at smartselangor.com.my under publications. On the IoT, I can quickly just highlight here for everybody that we have a target that within 5 years from now, we will have at least 100,000 new devices that will be connected, and these could be CCTV cameras, could be smart water meters, etc. We're building an IoT platform to enable collaboration between government and the private sector, as you mentioned earlier on. And there will be the other two things will be creating that IoT training and awareness program. I think it's something a bit more developed than a normal makers program, you know, and also training on the sort of data analytics side and what can you do with data, that sort. So these are among some of the things that we will be focusing on and enabling that for the Selangor state. So these are the opportunities, and I think co-collaboration is a way forward, really.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fahmi. And okay, so I think you can hear from Dr. Fahmi what the DNA, Dr. Mazlan, device, network and application, where he mentioned that device and application were the opportunities for the industry players to work on. And I believe you guys also need to look into the Smart Selangor blueprint until 2025. And also recapping that is, the issue of connectivity is not only in Selangor. I believe it's statewide, especially in the Sabah and Sarawak state. Also, connectivity is an issue, and also this was also raised in one of our webinar, with all the smart city stakeholders, and storage and data issue, and also on how do you process data to be interpreted to be something that is valuable, that can be converted into real-time data that can be used for the device to make decisions. Okay, and Mr. Nom, I just we can't run away from this question. It was put in this paper for me. COVID-19 pandemic impact to the IoT infrastructure development. Where in the Honeywell angle, what are the business opportunities, value and opportunities with this COVID-19 pandemic? How do you see the business opportunities that can be created with this new norm? After you, Mr. Nom.
Sure, thank you. Well, first of all, I think one thing COVID-19 showed us is for those who didn't believe in digitalization and IoT and connectivity, that it's actually critical and it works. I mean, we all went from operating in an office to now we're operating remotely from homes all over the world. We're operating plants remotely. We're starting up plants or inspecting buildings, whatever. So I think I talked to a lot of companies who said, I had a digital agenda, but really only about 20% of my team really bought into it pre-COVID. Now it's 100%. Everybody kind of gets that there's something big here. So I think it's coming out of COVID, we're going to have a lot of energy and enthusiasm about taking this new connectivity, this new way of working, and putting it to use. So that's one thing. I think the second thing is I think different parts of the world have used what was already in place to manage COVID in a better way. You know, some countries actually quickly set up within days COVID command and control centers where they could monitor the cases, monitor the people, use the isolation and quarantine, make sure people kept to it. There's been software developed almost overnight for nurses to interact with COVID patients and keep up with them, and a whole new connectivity of patients and hospital and medical care that's leveraged mobility, leveraged sensors, leveraged data. You know, within Honeywell, we pivoted also ourselves. You know, we were very focused on what we called smart buildings. Well, now the focus is on healthy buildings. How do you monitor people that come in for temperature? Are they wearing face masks if required? How many people in an elevator? How many people in a floor? Are people congregating? We've developed a new solution that a robot that goes down the row of an airplane to basically, you know, clean it up with UV lights in 2 minutes. You know, so I think this has taught us a lot about how to put things together and leverage what's there. I guess the last comment I would give you, the one learning we had in Honeywell during COVID, is we actually were able to do things a lot faster and a lot quicker because of the urgency and crisis than we did in the normal environment. In the normal environment, you're kind of stuck with processes and systems and benchmarks and stage gates. When COVID hit, that all went out the window and creativity started flowing, and people said, well, I could do this and connect this and this application and this. We took our Honeywell Forge, which we were looking to you know, be promoting for a customer platform to gather data and do AI. We've leveraged it internally to monitor offices, monitor our people, monitor our cases, and that. So I think COVID has brought a sense of urgency. It's brought a sense of the benefits of digitalization. It's brought some new ideas in healthy building and healthcare. Let's keep it going.
Okay, thank you, no, but we hope that the COVID pandemic don't prolong that long.
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't want COVID to keep going. We want COVID to stop. But the learnings we want to keep going. Thank you for correcting me. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Rao, Motorola, how do you see this COVID-19 pandemic? Is it what sort of, you know, business opportunities that we could you know, we could get from this current situation? You know, I hope you don't wish that the COVID-19 pandemic can prolong longer.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. So I think when we're talking about COVID, we are talking about social distancing, face masks, temperature reading, and plus others, right? So, and Norm has mentioned about the creativity and innovation. So what came out of this is the analytic part of our CCTV, the back end part of it. So we can actually identify the social distancing, people who are wearing masks or not wearing masks, and then temperature reading. So these are the new innovation, the new technology, especially on the analytic part of it, that has been embedded into our CCTV solution. So today we have an offering to the organization, to the government, to people on how we can do and address the issues on social distancing, people not using a facial mask, and also temperature reading. So this is something that's come out of the pandemic.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Rao. Yeah, generally the new norms, you know, social distancing, traceability, video analytics is the needs is increasing generally. So, okay, thank you, Dr. Rao. But from the Dr. Mazlan, from the angle of these SMEs, local players SMEs, how do you see the COVID-19 pandemic? And then, is there any business opportunities? that is created through this pandemic, Dr. Mazlan?
I'm sure a lot of SMEs are affected. Okay, very very much affected is because of the situation limits them in terms of their business. But somehow during the COVID-19, a lot of the players have already pivoted in terms of instead of engaging on the current market, they have to pivot into a different market. This is the situation that we are facing, like the importance of healthcare. You might see that because the fear of density in cafe, in restaurants, in sports, music events, and all that also give a new opportunity for us to provide a new services for them. Once you are inside this kind of subways or trains, you take a look at contact tracing. Before that, we don't even have that contact tracing. People have been doing that. You look at compliance monitoring. Is there a way for us to provide compliance monitoring, especially people who quarantine people, citizens who come back to Malaysia for 2 weeks? We need to find ways of how to quarantine that, manage that from remote. You see the acceleration of this retail sector. So a lot of companies, the SMEs, are now being digitalization. So they see this is a very important factor for them to reach out to a bigger market. So work from home is one of the things that people have been doing now. So to reduce the cost. But also during the smart cities, it also gives us to understand, the quality of the governance, the scale of inequalities, especially now you see that internet is the most key important. Telecommunications is one of the important area that we need to address for, and digitalization. So because of that digitalization, this create a new opportunity for people to come on board, and we have to find ways. And that's why I think I just like to add, Zul, about the initiative that we have done together with MIND and all that, and the rest of the stakeholders. The MIND ICSC, the Malaysian International Smart City, International Sustainable Center for Smart Cities. So for this, we have a platform to encourage exchange of information, because give an opportunity for other people to go to one-stop center, a platform for them to see what are the opportunities out there, and they can mix and match in terms of business and also the opportunity, what the government or the states are doing. So from there, they can see the resources. From there, they can take a look. So they go to icsc-my.org, they can look into this information, and this is where the opportunity is. So one last note is that maybe my suggestion is that maybe it's about time during this pandemic, maybe we need to relook back our smart city blueprint. The priority might be different, right?
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we in MIND, we together working with MSCA, actually Malaysia Smart City Alliance, is an association or a platform where Dr. Mazlan also is one of the committee members. Where it is a platform where all the industry players, stakeholders gathers there to look into on how we could help to promote the sustainable cities and smart cities program in the country, and also also for the MySCSC is a one-stop platform. So I encourage the audience and also the panelists to explore more on MySCSC. And before that, I would like to touch with Dr. Fahmi, if you Dr. Fahmi still around, or just your comment on the COVID-19 pandemic and the business opportunities that it can be created. Maybe 5 minutes, 4 for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Our experience is essentially what Norm has just mentioned. What we were at SSD, what we were trying to push about 4 years ago to go digital, to become smart. And people thought that this is going to be super expensive. It's going to need smart people like you only. The whole state couldn't accept it because not everybody is smart. I think when COVID hit us, I think today I can confidently say there is not a single politician in the state that refuses to go digital, right? I think everyone is on board. And I think now they have their own interpretation what digital is beyond spreadsheets or word processes, right? Now they really understand it, right? So I think that it has been quite positive for us. And the other thing also is like everybody says, seeing is believing. And I will just share with you, like one of the things that we SSD were involved in during the pandemic was, I think people talk about contact tracing and all that. We had to solve, and I think we were perhaps the first states that began to do something called smart containment, and that means quickly containing the right areas, the areas where they were exhibiting a lot of cases. And I think Selangor being very, very highly densely populated state, we had that issue at the very beginning. So the state wanted dashboards, the state wanted how can we coordinate PDRM, the hospital services, health services, local councils, down to even the garbage collectors, such that when you have a case and you know where the patient houses are, where they go to work at, I think we subtly pass this information to all these operators. And I think even to this day, touch wood, and I hope that none of our waste collectors are infected with COVID-19, despite the jobs that they are doing, because they are guided by this data that we provided. And I think it is the whole infrastructure that we built to make sure that this particular dashboard and control system remains online, live, and updated, and then information gets accessible by everybody. I think this is a solution I think perhaps can be applied to other states that is facing this. Sabah perhaps today can use this sort of tool to make sure they can run this kind of containment faster and quicker. So there are issues like that, and I think people are benefiting. Before. Because we had that pandemic over Ramadan, right? If you remember, it was Ramadan and Hari Raya.
Ramadan, yeah.
So those people who were craving the ayam percik and all the local delicacies still got them. And I think that was the power of the state itself embarked on an e-kitchen initiative, encourage a lot of the traders to go online. And I think these guys are still reaping the benefits of being able to sell stuff online, food stuff online. And they don't need to go and have those illegal structures by the side of the road just to get their sales going, and they can just sell it online now. So I think that has helped the economy to a certain bit. So I think these are the real seeing is believing and experiencing what IoT and what IoT could positively impact us at the government for our operations as well as the people. So I think it was quite positive for us.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fahmi. And I think the other thing that as per what this topic is all about is about creating business opportunities, and I believe there are roles by the government and also the the industry players, and maybe a quick comment. What do you think that from first is to Dr. Mazlan, okay? What do you think the first thing that one important thing that the government need to do other than the data sharing? I know that government need a lot of data sharing. That is something that we are in the government also trying to move towards, working towards how we can share data. So even though data between interagency and also inter-ministry within the government also we are moving towards that. So what do you think that the first thing, important thing that the government need to do to promote the business opportunities in IoT infrastructure? So, Doc,
I think the framework is already there. It's the execution part. So I'll suggest on the execution part. I think a lot of times when we see and meet with a lot of organizations or local councils, the problem is because most of them work in silos. Maybe it's very difficult for them to implement, execute that. So maybe we can suggest that appoint a chief smart city officer. So it breaks down all the barriers. He have that vision, mission, technology-wise and the business-wise that can drive until the solutions is fully deployed. I like the way Selangor have done, the SSDU.
Chief Smart City
Officer.
Smart City Technology Officer. It's a new post.
So a new post. So they need one in the project management office. What like SSDU have been doing. So they really manage the total project so that you can see end to end. So I hope that the rest of the states have that similar setup, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Raouf, your comment, what the first thing that very important that you think that the government needs to do?
I think this is very much similar and very much aligned to what Dr. Mazlan has mentioned. The blueprint, the framework.
Implementation,
Yeah. So it's on more on the implementation part of it.
Okay, so implementation. Okay, we have got so many planning. You know, the implementation, I think, is a challenge for our country. I think two things important is the implementation and also on the monitoring of our blueprint or whatever framework that we have already established. These two areas that I believe that also the government need to emphasize lah. Once you have got the plan, implement, monitor, report, and also update the plan. Maybe the plan is not, like you mentioned in the COVID pandemic. Maybe Dr. Mazlan also mentioned the framework need to be reviewed. Like so with the government, they are also reviewing the RMK 12 and so forth. Norm, any input from you for what do you think that the government in Malaysia, from your perspective, what is the first thing that we should do in order to stimulate or to increase the business opportunities?
Well, I agree with the previous comments. I like the smart city officer idea. We actually would have called it. I actually focused it on a dynamic smart city organization, which is a mix of the government sector and public sector, private sector talents. I still think this is about a partnership and a collaboration. I think both sides have a lot to contribute. Obviously, some programs are going to be very government driven and government focused, but many are very open for profit in the private sector and SMEs. So I would just take the smart city officer, make it a dynamic smart city organization that's a mix of public and private sector stakeholders.
Yep, thank you, Norm. And I think also for the Dr. Fahmi, I think they are talking about the angle from what do the needs of this government. Probably you in the state, how do you see what are you think that what are the industry they need to do in order to capitalize the business opportunities of IoT from the government? So your angle representing the state, I assume is also from the government side lah.
Okay, so the way I think like I said, we always faced with things being sold to us, right? The main issue there is sometimes most of the things do not really address our specific needs. I think there has to be that engagement and what we call a discovery process. Norm mentioned about this dynamic smart city officer team. I think I want to advertise here like openly that it is SSDU, because we are most of us are private sector guys who went to government. We face the challenges and all that. But I think that there is that. I mean, we act as that buffer because we understand what the requirements are truly, and I think rather than going to the end user per se, because at the end of the day, I think if you take one example, CCTV, right? You could sell one to PJ, sell it 11 times to 11 other councils, but it becomes pointless if they are not all connected. And I think if I want to roll out 1,000 CCTVs, ideally you want to get that 1,000 feeds, and those 1,000 feeds are acted in the same way everywhere in the state, right? So I think this is the challenge that we have at the implementation level. We certainly have a model, and I think our request to the private sector and federal government is the following. I think we have a target in 2025. I think the government itself is still trying to experiment, perhaps several cities in Malaysia to do that. I don't know when the end dates will be, but we have an end date in 2025. I would say here's an opportunity for the federal government to come and assist and back us up, provide all the, I think, either financial or policy support or even investment support for foreign companies like Motorola or Honeywell to come in and experiment with us, because we have a definite plan and we have a definite end date. And I think that's a good trial and take us as that test bed for us to really implement smart city properly in the context of the Selangor state. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fahmi. So, and generally what I can conclude here is that, of course, the role of both sides, for the from the government side or the state side, understanding the needs is very important. So you guys have to explore and understand more of what are the needs of the smart city authority, also the federal government. Okay, so of course, one way for you to access is, as Dr. Mazhar also mentioned just now, is through our My ICSC portal. We have got the information there, but it's still, we are now keep building up the portal, because it's like a one-stop center where industry players, government stakeholders, academia can access and look on what are the other smart city stakeholders are doing. Of course, and then also I can say that also in terms of this focal point, as I mentioned, the focal point, you have a focal point like the chief smart city technology officer, because like not all state have got like SSDU. What I understand, like in Sarawak, they have got SMA, Sarawak Multimedia Agency, that is also doing this initiative by the state on smart city. And Penang also have got a unit that has just been formed, that Penang Digital Corporation, and Johor, you got Johor Digital Corporation, and so forth. And I believe, I do agree, because handling the smart city and also in terms of the IoT on how to accelerate the business is that they need to be a focal point, where of course we in the government is pushing towards that. Okay, and then and I also, okay, just to generally what I can say is that, of course, we have got new terms just now, where of course the sensor technology, I would like to look at sensor technology play an important role, and also the challenge also in terms of smell. So there's one area where the smelling sensor, which is something that where the MNC need to look into the needs on how, because we in Selangor, they have to do it manually, pakar pasukan khas ahlu air, so to identify where does the source of the pollution. And the other thing, of course, that has been shared is on the digitization, digitalization. Yes, because this digitalization is also in the smart city framework, where I believe is also critical not only for Selangor but all state is also moving to digitalization. But then the issue is that how can the government support digitalization, and what are the business models that we could drive in moving to digitalization, because it's all involved funding, and this is where I believe also digitalization is something that is critical in order for us to improve our connectivity and network. And other than that, what I can conclude here also in our discussion also is that one is that the need of collaboration between the SMI and also the multinational players, and to see on how SMI can participate. This is where if the platform is, the opportunity is given by the multinational player for the SMI, so this is where the SMI can come in and contribute, because some of the solutions that you need some local touch. This is where in the involvement of this SMI local base is important in participating with the global players like Honeywell or Motorola. And just one, before I close, just one last comment from each panel. Anusha, I have got few minutes to go, is it?
Yes.
Okay, just last comment. Dr. Mazlan, okay, what is your wish list? 1 minute, what wish list, from the government or for the industry?
No, I think every state have their own different pain points. So
yes,
well, we need to meet
their own DNA.
The DNA, the maturity of the DNA is different. So also when we look at brownfield and greenfield smart cities also have a different solution. So what we need is that the smart part of the smart city is mainly the application part. The rest, maybe 80% of the whole implementation investment might be in the infrastructure. So we still need to start with infrastructure before we put the intelligence part.
Okay. Dr. Rauf, 1 minute. Your last comment, your wish, or how do you see how we can grow the business?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a good discussion. So like I said earlier, if I look at the smart city component and characteristic, and this is what the smart city is trying to do, Motorola solution can add value to each and every one of these components. So we can actually work together, and I think and we already started, working together, especially with Dr. Fahmi for the in the Smart Selangor area, and we will continue to work with the other state as well to add value to what we can offer to this framework, smart city framework.
Okay, Norm, from you, any what is your wish list? 1 minute for the government or for the industry?
Well, I think for both governments and industry, as we hopefully end COVID here soon and move forward, I think it's a great opportunity to kind of take a step change in this smart city and digitalization, because everybody got connected and digitalized and immersed in this over the crisis. We were able to develop a lot of solutions, us and many other companies. A lot of new applications came out. Let's now build upon this together, working in a partnership between governments, SMEs, local SMEs, and multinationals to achieve the vision that Malaysia set out, which is a very impressive vision. Let's use this crisis as it hopefully ends soon to move forward in this space. I'm excited about it.
Okay, thank you, Norm. You have any last word, Dr. Fahmi?
I just want to take the opportunity to encourage private sectors, local and foreign, to come and approach us, because certainly what we offer in the smart state is we have issues to resolve. And what we offer are two main challenges. I think one will be the scalability issue, because whatever is implemented absolutely needs to be scalable. And second is, because Selangor is not as rich as Malaysia as a country, is the cost side, the affordability side. And I think we always put forth that challenge. But hey, if it works in Selangor, it will work anywhere in Malaysia. That's the opportunity for you guys out there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fahmi. Okay, and I believe I have captured almost all the key points, Anusha, because we look at the one more thing that we need to focus in future is the cybersecurity where I think this is also getting critical with the more connectivity, IoT and so forth And and I think I would like to thank all the panelists, Norm, Dr. Raouf, Mazdan, and also Dr. Fahmi. We hope your system could be okay in the future, so that it's not because the IoT, we cannot see you. By the way, Dr. Fahmi is a handsome guy, so don't worry, And okay, that's it for me, Anusha. I think I'll pass back to you. Thank you very much, the panelists.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Zul. And to all our panelists for a fruitful discussion. Thank you so much. Hope today's talk has benefited all. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar session. Please follow on MITES Malaysia's Twitters, IG, Facebook, and website for further information. You can also contact our secretariat to subscribe to MITE webinar series. Have a nice evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Right,
okay,
bye.
see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah,